catch!
Those 100-foot waves that swallow the Andrea Gail hole, the tank they filmed in, could only produce 4-foot chop. Every single towering wall of water in this movie is digital. The most physically overwhelming sequences were never physical at all. And that's just where it starts. The entire film exists because a freelance writer cut open his own leg with a chainsaw 80 feet up a pine tree. Harrison Ford was the first choice for Clooney's role. Clooney himself wanted to play Wahlberg's role. The woman playing the fishing boat captain swore off all water movies for life after The Abyss, and only took this part because she never had to get wet. 2 families of the real crew sued Warner Brothers over how they were depicted, and the case they lost is still cited in media law today. And the phrase you use constantly, the perfect storm, didn't exist in everyday language before this film. Junger put it there. 20 facts about the perfect storm. Let's get into it. Like and subscribe before we start. Now let's go.
Hey, Linda.
Hey, boss.
What's a storm? My kind of numbers.
I lost Ben Pulley.
Number 20. In 1991, Sebastian Junger was 29 years old, living in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and barely surviving financially as a tree climber while trying to build a freelance writing career that was going nowhere. Topping out 80-foot pines with a running chainsaw, he got careless and laid open the back of his own leg. He was suspended on a rope, saw still running, looking down at his exposed Achilles tendon. He hadn't severed it, but he had cut it wide open. While he was limping around Gloucester recovering, a local sword fishing boat called the Andrea Gail vanished approximately 1,000 miles out to sea. Junger was already working on ideas about dangerous, undercover jobs. Now he had his subject. He wrote roughly 50 pages, sold them to Outside Magazine in 1994 as an article called The Storm, and spent the next 3 years expanding that into the best-selling book that became this film. A slip of the chainsaw on a pine tree in Massachusetts is the reason the movie exists, the reason the phrase entered the language, and the reason 5 million copies of a book about 6 fishermen have been sold worldwide.
Hey, big man, how you doing, huh?
Number 19. Wolfgang Petersen's first choice to play Captain Billy Tyne was Harrison Ford. Ford wasn't interested. Petersen then went to Mel Gibson. Gibson's asking price was beyond what the production could accommodate. Only after both of those conversations closed did the role settle on George Clooney, who was coming off Three Kings with Mark Wahlberg and had Wahlberg's personal recommendation behind him. Wahlberg's casting was comparatively easy. He was a Boston area native whose accent required no work and whose physical credibility as a working-class deckhand was built in. Clooney's path to the role was the longer journey. The part that audiences now think of as natural Clooney territory was the third option after 2 more famous actors declined it. The captain everyone associates with Clooney was almost a completely different film with a completely different face.
Throw you both in jail!
Number 18. When Clooney came aboard the production, the role he wanted was not Billy Tyne. He wanted Bobby Shatford, the younger, greener deckhand that Wahlberg eventually played. Clooney lobbied for it. Petersen overruled him, convinced that Clooney's natural screen authority made him the only realistic choice for the captain, and gave the Bobby role to Wahlberg instead. Think about what that casting reversal would have meant. Clooney as the uncertain young deckhand trying to earn enough to build a life. Wahlberg, or someone else entirely as the weathered captain making the final call. The film, as we know it, exists partly because a director refused to let a major star talk his way into a supporting role. Petersen read Clooney's gravity correctly and insisted on it. The captain everyone remembers is the part Clooney initially tried to avoid.
Those goddamn windows blew up! Hi, Skip! Come on,
Number 17. Wolfgang Petersen's international breakthrough was Das Boot, the 1981 German submarine drama that earned him 2 Academy Award nominations for directing and for adapted screenplay and is still considered one of the greatest war films ever made. No working director had more experience building tension inside a metal hull with a crew that might not survive. The Perfect Storm is Das Boot's spiritual successor. The same claustrophobic dread, the same doomed men sealed inside a vessel, simply above the waterline instead of below it. Petersen was not hired to make a wave movie. He was hired to make a film about men trapped in a boat. The waves are the backdrop, the vessel, and the people inside it are the story. That's the lesson Das Boot had taught him 20 years earlier, and he applied it without adjustment. Every scene of the Andrea Gail crew fighting their own hull is a scene he had essentially made before, just with salt water instead of depth charges.
3-1. We're gonna extract you one at a time from the deck. Hey, Jeremy, I don't like this. Clock ticking.
Come on, we better get them off now.
Number 16. After the notoriously brutal underwater production of James Cameron's The Abyss in 1989, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio made a private decision: no more films involving water. The Abyss shoot had been physically and psychologically punishing in ways the finished film doesn't fully reveal, and she had no interest in repeating anything like it. Peterson landed her as boat captain Linda Greenlaw by pointing out the one thing the role had going for it: every single one of her scenes was land-based. She would never be in the tank. She would never be required to get wet on camera. She kept the vow completely. The actress playing a commercial fishing boat, Captain spends the entire film on dry ground. There's something quietly funny about the fact that the only professional sailor in the story is played by the one cast member who refused to go near the water.
Hey, rookie. What are you so happy about?
Number 15. To prepare for the role, Wahlberg didn't just visit Gloucester and absorb the atmosphere. He moved in. He stayed in the actual bedroom Bobby Shatford had occupied above the Crow's Nest, the working Gloucester bar owned by Bobby's mother, Ethel Shatford. He slept in the real man's bed. He lived in the real man's space. One night, he worked the door of the bar itself, carting customers as they came in. The actor playing a Gloucester fisherman was pulling shifts at the same establishment where the real fisherman had spent his time off. This is the kind of preparation that doesn't show up in the performance as a single specific moment. It shows up as an accumulated texture, a way of carrying the role that goes slightly beyond what performance classes teach. Wahlberg absorbed the location because he actually lived inside it.
Come on, lay it up! Lay it up!
Number 14. The production built its storm on Warner Brothers. Stage 16, the historic soundstage that had previously housed Spencer Tracy's 1,958 adaptation of The Old Man and the Sea. For the perfect storm, the crew excavated the stage floor and deepened it to 22 feet, creating what was at the time the largest soundstage water tank in the world. Inside that tank sat the central practical achievement of the production: a full-scale mock-up of the Andrea Gail weighing 150,000 pounds, mounted on a 6-axis hydraulic gimbal with a turntable capable of spinning the entire vessel a full 360 degrees. Special effects supervisor John Fraser described the process simply: Warner Brothers found its biggest stage and literally cut the tank into the floor. A Hemingway fisherman had once struggled with a marlin on that soundstage. 40 years later, 6 crew members were being thrown around a gimbaled replica of a sword fishing boat on the same concrete.
We can't raise the Andrea Gail.
What does that mean?
We don't know anything.
Number 13. John Fraser has been direct about this. You cannot make real waves in a tank of that size. The wave machines inside Stage 16 topped out at approximately 4 feet of chop, every ship swallowing near vertical wall of black water that defines the film's visual identity. Every towering swell that the Andrea Gail climbs and fails to crest is Industrial Light and Magic's digital work computed from real meteorological data and composited over footage of a boat being pummeled by industrial hoses and dump tanks overhead. The signature image of the entire film, the Andrea Gail, pointed nearly vertical up the face of the rogue wave before pitch-poling backward into the dark, is the exact sequence that cost the most, required the most computational hours, and was never practically possible. The moment most audiences think of when they think of this film is the moment that physically could not have been filmed. The production built the largest soundstage water tank in the world and then made the ocean digitally anyway.
Let's watch, I wanna watch! Maybe I'm studying up for that day when I get my own boat! Yeah! Your own boat, huh? Meanwhile, give me a hand! Grab the throttle!
Number 12. For the Coast Guard cutter sequences, Fraser abandoned the elaborate 6-axis gimbal entirely and took a simpler approach. He suspended a set piece from 2 cranes and bobbed it in the water. The problem was communication. The crane operators couldn't hear directorial cues over the noise of the fans and the water machines. Fraser climbed up and began signaling them with his arms, like a flight deck officer guiding aircraft onto a carrier. Halfway through the second take, someone handed him a conductor's baton and told him he looked like he was running an orchestra. Peterson watched the footage and couldn't believe how genuinely seaworthy the resulting shot looked. Some of the most convincing ocean footage in the film came from a effects supervisor waving a stick at 2 crane operators and hoping for the best. The 150,000-pound 6-axis gimbal produced impressive results. 2 cranes and a baton produced some of the best.
Put so much ground beef and sausage in this thing, it weighed out at 20 pounds.
More than most of our fish weigh.
Skipper say anything about us coming up short?
Skipper's too scared to say.
Number 11. Wolfgang Petersen declined to use real swordfish. An animal rights supporter, he turned to Walt Conti's Edge Innovations, the animatronics company responsible for the creatures in Deep Blue Sea and Anaconda, who built 4 fully animatronic swordfish and approximately 100 synthetic fish models to cover every hull, every thrash on the deck, and every shark that found its way on board. The American Humane Association certified the production. No animal was harmed. Every fish you watch being pulled over the rail at the Flemish Cap is rubber or robot. The shark that gets hauled aboard and causes chaos on deck is a fabricated prop from a California animatronics shop. The production that was built on the story of real men catching real fish used no actual fish at any point. This is one of those facts that seems trivial until you realize the entire commercial and emotional logic of the story rests on what those men were doing out there. And every object representing what they were doing out there was fake. Number 10. For the opening stages of the storm before the water machines and the digital swells take over, the crew didn't use the tank at all. They shot 3 days of ocean exteriors on the outer edge of Hurricane Floyd as it churned up the American East Coast in September 1999. To capture the feeling of a storm beginning to build, the production sailed toward a real one. The footage sits in a specific band of the film, the transitional section, where the weather is turning and the sky is darkening, and the Andrea Gail is still recognizable as a functioning boat rather than a vessel in crisis. That texture, the particular way real ocean moves under a real approaching storm, is what grounds the early sequences before the CGI takes over. The digital waves are convincing in part because the real weather underneath them is genuine. You can feel the difference even if you can't identify it.
I ride it. We'll be in Bermuda in no time.
Number 9. Rather than simply perform the appearance of seamanship, Clooney trained for approximately 3 weeks to operate the Andrea Gail replica, including nights spent out on open water. He wanted the physical competence in the role to be real, rather than perform the difference being that real competence reads on camera in a way that performed competence rarely does. The commitment ran through the cast. The 2 actors playing the pararescue jumpers in the Coast Guard subplot went through a genuine training program in Arizona, learning to work helicopter harnesses, practice water extractions, and operate under night vision equipment. The people playing professionals had learned the jobs those professionals do. It's a specific kind of preparation that the film doesn't draw attention to, but that shows up in the way the cast moves through their work, with the kind of ease that only comes from having actually done the thing.
Do you think you'll love them?
They're yours, aren't they?
Number 8. Michael Ironside plays Bob Brown, the owner of the Andrea Gail and her sister vessel, the Hannah Bowden. The real Bob Brown had died in 1998, more than a year before filming began. Ironside's resemblance to the man was reportedly close enough that during production, a stranger arrived on set looking to settle an old financial obligation. He believed he owed Brown, not realizing he was looking at an actor and that the real man had been dead for over a year. The debt collector showed up at a movie set for a dead man because the actor playing him looked close enough to the real person to convince someone who had known him. That is a specific category of casting success that goes beyond good performance into something genuinely uncanny. Ironside didn't just play Bob Brown. He apparently inhabited enough of the man's appearance that the real world briefly got confused about who was in the room.
Hey, it was a hell of a fight, though. Huh?
Number 7. During the memorial scene near the film's end, a microphone picked up Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio's actual heartbeat as she delivered the eulogy. It was a technical accident. The pulse was audible underneath her voice when the sound engineers reviewed the footage. Petersen kept it in the finished film. The low, steady beat underneath the memorial speech is not a sound design choice or a deliberate emotional manipulation. It is the actress's own heart, caught by a microphone that was doing its job too well, preserved in the final cut because the director recognized that what the accident had produced was more honest than anything the sound department could have constructed intentionally. The film's most emotionally weighted scene has a real human pulse running beneath it. Most viewers have never noticed it. Now you'll hear it every time.
Go
Most people know me as Bugsy.
Well, I'm gonna shove off now. Big day tomorrow.
Oh, I can't take you home?
What?
Number 6. John Hawkes had spent more than a decade grinding through bit parts before landing the role of Bugsy Moran. He and Rusty Schwimmer, who plays Irene, the woman Bugsy falls for at the Crow's Nest, rehearsed their opening bar scene together at an actual bar the night before their screen test, deliberately playing it so understatedly that no one watching would register it as acting. The film opened the Monday after. A studio casting director who had auditioned Hawkes months earlier for a different role and never called back reached out. Someone upstairs had said they wanted someone like Bugsy. The casting director answered that they had actually already read the actor who played Bugsy. Hawkes got the role. A decade later, he received an Academy Award nomination for Winter's Bone. The trajectory of one of the most respected character actor careers of the following 20 years hinged on a bar scene rehearsed in an actual bar the night before anyone knew it mattered.
Miss you.
Number 5. James Horner composed the score. 3 years earlier, he had written the music for Titanic, the highest-grossing film of its era and the project that earned him an Academy Award for Best Original Score. Peterson hired him specifically, hoping to carry some of that emotional weight from one sinking ship story to the next. Horner built the perfect storm score around a rolling 6-note motif designed to evoke the swell and rhythm of the North Atlantic. For the end credits, he co-wrote the theme Yours Forever with John Mellencamp and George Green, and Mellencamp sang it. Two of the defining sound experiences of two of the decade's biggest ocean disaster films were scored by the same composer within 3 years of each other. Horner came to The Perfect Storm as the man who had just scored the last great storm, and he brought that knowledge with him. Number 4. The film cast David Sullivan, played by William Fichtner, as the crew's volatile troublemaker, the difficult personality generating friction on board. His family was hurt by the portrayal. His sister, Kathy Sullivan Mustone, has said directly that the real Sully was a funny, warm, large-hearted man whose defining characteristic was his laugh, not his temper. She also described something the film never mentions. On a separate occasion, on a different boat called the Harmony, when the vessel began taking on water late at night, with the crew asleep below, Sully dove into freezing water and pulled himself hand over hand along mooring ropes to reach the boat tied alongside and wake the sleeping crew in time to save them. The film needed a source of internal tension and gave the role to a real man. The real man had once risked his life in icy water to save strangers on a boat he wasn't responsible for. The gap between those two versions of the same person is not a small one.
Who's that?
Old Ben.
No.
Number 3. The night before the storm took Andrea Gail, the real Billy Tyne made radio contact with nearby fishing boats. His final transmission, the last words anyone ever received from him, was this: "She's coming on, boys, and she's coming on strong." That was everything. No distress call, no drama. One sentence, spoken plainly by a man who had read the weather and understood what was coming, and who chose a fisherman's understatement as his last communication with the world. The film rearranged the historical record in ways the families noticed Linda Greenlaw, by her own account, was approximately 600 miles east of the Andrea Gail's position and never filed a distress call for the vessel, not west, and actively searching as the movie depicts. The opening sequence where Tyne is struggling with a poor catch didn't happen. The real boat came home loaded that trip. Most of the film's dramatic architecture is invented. The real detail is that one sentence, spoken into a radio, and then silence.
No, you see, the thing is, Captain, I'm looking for a guy to come home to Maine with me, buy a house, and raise a few kids.
And what does that guy and you do after?
Oh.
Number 2. The survivors of Billy Tyne and Dale Murphy brought a lawsuit against Warner Brothers under Florida law, arguing the film had falsely portrayed Tyne as a reckless Ahab figure who gambled with his crew's lives to preserve the catch. A characterization they said the studio knew was inaccurate and that they found defamatory. The families of real men who had died at sea were watching a Hollywood production tell the public their loved ones had been reckless. Warner Brothers defended on 2 grounds: the on-screen disclaimer, stating that dialogue and certain events and characters were fictionalized for dramatic purposes, and the First Amendment. In 2005, the Florida Supreme Court ruled in favor of the filmmakers. The court held that the state's commercial likeness statute could not be extended to cover a motion picture's dramatic treatment of real events. The case is known as Tyne v. Time Warner and is still regularly cited in American media law disputes over dramatized true stories. Every major film that puts words in the mouths of real people and changes the facts to serve the story is navigating a legal landscape.
And that hand of yours is so hot I can feel the heat from here.
I've asked you to team up.
I don't like partners. Business-wise, that is.
Okay.
Number 1. Before Sebastian Junger's book, the phrase "the perfect storm" was not in common usage. It was a meteorological term used by specialists to describe a rare and catastrophic convergence of separate weather systems into something greater and more destructive than any individual component. Junger borrowed it from a meteorologist he interviewed, used it as his title, and it escaped. Within a few years of the book's publication and the film's release, the phrase had entered everyday English as shorthand for any situation where multiple bad factors arrive simultaneously and reinforce each other into something catastrophic. Politics, business, sports, medicine. You hear it constantly. Junger has had to clarify repeatedly that he didn't coin the meteorological term, he only popularized it. The book has sold more than 5 million copies. The film's meteorologist character speaks the phrase on screen as a technical description of what 3 converging weather systems are about to do, and the audience watched it become the way the English language describes disaster. A tree climber with a chainsaw wound who became a journalist who talked to fishermen in a bar gave the world a phrase it now uses every day. That is a chain of causation nobody planned. 20 facts about the perfect storm. The tank that could only make 4-foot waves. The chainsaw wound that started everything. The heartbeat in the memorial scene. And the phrase everyone uses now that came from a man who cut open his own leg in a pine tree. If any of these changed how you see the film, drop it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.